Welcome or welcome back, Maniacs, to Concentration Camp Episode 2. Today we are covering Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. This book was published by Fingerprint Classics and written in 1922. Dude, I thought this book was written like 15 years ago. I know nothing about Hermann Hesse, by the way. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. It's Hesse. Un momento for the... Oh, dude, we're good. No pickup on that. We're filming on a porch today, so if we pause for a moment and we look at the computer, it's because we're checking some new microphones to see if you guys can hear that.
We upgraded. Better production. Better value.
Better production for you. So it was published in German at first, and the first publication in English was in 1951. So I don't know. I just think that's kind of crazy. I have read this book multiple times. It's quickly become a rotational pick of mine. This is a short story, only about 140 pages, but it is rich with philosophy, spirituality, and precisely examines the struggles of those who seek wisdom only to realize it cannot be taught. It can only be learned. A real quick disclaimer, though. This is our incomplete take of this story, which there is infinitely more to go into. Why don't you go ahead and show the good people there
Absolutely.
what this fantastic book looks like. This is our incomplete take, though. We encourage you to read the book for yourself to get the most out of it. There's only so much we can explain in a summary video. So, speaking of summary, let's get into that real quick. I'll read you a summary very briefly, and then we like to take a little bit of a detour on our on our book club series. We, instead of talking about why a character did this or what happened in the book, we like to talk about the ideas underneath them, how we can enact them or act upon them in real life to the best of our abilities. We are not classically trained philosophers. Reminder. So this the summary of Siddhartha. Siddhartha is a young man at the start of the book and a Brahmin. He grows tired of the teachings of the Brahmin. Thinking he has learned everything there is to learn from them, he ventures off to find something to quench his thirst. Sid, which is what I colloquially call him now that I've read his life story several times.
Formal.
Right.
Yeah.
Sid initially wants to become empty, to feel reality flow through him, and in his search, he meets various characters. Samanas teach him discipline and the ascetic ways. Gautama teaches him veneration. Kamala teaches him about pleasure. Kamaswami teaches him about worldly wisdom. And his son teaches him about the depths of love in all of its colors. Govinda is more of a plot. Govinda is Sid's like best friend, and he is more of a plot device, from what I can tell, to essentially like show how Sid has grown throughout the story. And Sid soon learns that what he seeks cannot be taught, and it must be learned. So he learns from a river. Near the end of the book, Sid is introduced to his 11-year-old son for the first time, and this is the turning point for the climax of the story. Kamala, the boy's mother, brings young Siddhartha to Sid to be raised outside of the pleasure-seeking culture of the city that the child has only ever known. The child's about 11 years old at this point. So along the way, she's bitten by a snake and dies in the same bed as Vasudeva's wife died on years ago. And this is a bit of a motif that we will discuss later on in this video, so stay tuned for that. But there is a river motif that I really, really want to get into with you, because it's beautiful. It comes together in such beautiful opposites. It's fantastic. So young Siddhartha, now living with Sid, runs away back to the city, back to his servants, back to the riches, back to the only life he's ever been attached to. This challenges Sid. He follows the boy back to the city, but upon reaching the pleasure gardens, he stops and turns around without ever finding the boy. He returns to the hut with Vasudeva, who sits with Sid by the river to listen. The river shows Sid the oneness of the world, and Vasudeva notices. Upon noticing, he says Sid has finally reached enlightenment of his own. The very thing he sought is now his. Vasudeva walks into the forest, again, to become one with it. In the last chapter, Govinda returns to Sid. He expresses some sort of disappointment in the teachings of Gautama, the Buddha, and Sid shows him what he knows. By the time he does this, we know Siddhartha can cast spells. He's cast spells on old Samana as a young man, and now Sid has the ability to give wisdom to Govinda. He has the ability to teach unteachable lessons, essentially. And also, and I didn't think about this until just now, Siddhartha is a bit of a wizard because he can astral project as well. So he casts, as a young man, I didn't even think about this until now. He's a wizard. He's a wizard, man. So, with that out of the way, I am Beefcake, I suppose.
Cupcakey.
Yeah. I am Charles, and this is Rothchild, Senor Cow. And this is Systematic.
Welcome. I love this book.
I absolutely adore this book.
This book is one of those phenomenal lessons, and it started off weird. The way you worded it was perfect. We are not trained in philosophy whatsoever. Neither is he. He knows nothing. And that's exactly why he gains wisdom. The less you know, the more wise you are, because you're wise enough to understand you know nothing.
Socrates actually said the first step to obtaining wisdom is to realize your own ignorance. And most people can't. They have no idea how ignorant they are. How I don't want to say stupid, but like, let's be honest, like myself included, I'm a very stupid person. So thanks for listening. But one of the like the central philosophical problems, I think, is like, first of all, is there an objective truth to the universe? Is there an objective reality? He actually, toward the end of the book, he tells Govinda he's not interested in whether or not reality is objective, because his subjective experience to him is objective. And I found that to be maybe a little circular, but also like kind of beautiful, because he's just owning his perception. You know, he's owning the world around him, and that his perceptions make his subjective experience objective because they are his and they are non-transferable.
What do you gain when you have wisdom and no knowledge? When you walk around with the idea of understanding you know nothing, that's where the true thought begins. You are legitimately breaking down thought of everything because you don't understand everything. So in that book, he questions everything because he understands he knows absolutely nothing. So when you live your life through perception of what our reality is, the ignorance isn't to search for the answer. The ignorance not realizing you are ignorant. Once you realize you're ignorant, you want to address that. You want to fix that, and you become wiser for acknowledging that you are in fact ignorant.
Actually, even more than that, I think Siddhartha feels that everyone else is ignorant. When he leaves the Brahmins, he describes how they perform these useless ablutions and these rituals that, like, if these people are so wise, why do they still have to do these rituals? If these people know so much, why do they still have to do these things and learn these things and be these things? And he concludes essentially that they have to do these things because they are in fact ignorant to the real nature of the universe. So they're contributing to something that they perceive to be, and we're, again, like, circling back to subjectivity versus objectivity. But these people, in his eyes, are serving a subjective reality, and he's in search of something that is so purely divine, so pure, honestly, and so natural that he realizes soon that it can't be found in teachings. It can literally not be taught. So like you kind of have no choice but to be ignorant of it until you experience it. And when you do experience it, you have to hope that, I think maybe you have to hope that, like, you have the intelligence and the knowledge to actually pick up on the fact that you are experiencing it.
That makes him super wise. He left because of their ignorance, and he came back. He understood at that point, when he lived his life and he experiences a bunch of different experiences, he's done a bunch of different things, he still realizes he knows nothing. So even though he may deem these people ignorant in their own rituals, their ways, he still came back. He still understood, although they are doing what they want to do, that's their choice to do it. He accepted their ignorance. He accepted their path. He's wise enough to understand not to judge other people.
He does not judge other people, but he does mock them a little bit here and there.
In the beginning.
Yeah, especially in the beginning. He realizes that other people's ignorance is their comfort zone, and he was never comfortable in those zones, so he would always leave. And this is actually one of the core themes that I think makes Siddhartha's character well-rounded in the end, when he meets his young boy, because it seems to me that when he realizes he has nothing more to gain from these teachings, he becomes detached from them. When everyone else is making fruitless rituals and givings and sacrifices and all these things, he goes, okay, you guys are fine here. I want to go off and find something else, something more meaningful. So he goes off to the next teacher, and then the next teacher. And by the time he gets to the Gautama, the Buddha, the enlightened one, then he realizes that enlightenment is in fact achievable, but not teachable. So he ends up essentially becoming attached to the hunt. He's addicted to the hunt.
Ignorant?
I think it makes him ambitious, but I don't know about ignorant. I think, in fact, it would make him more stubborn and maybe even more like hard-hearted, if that makes any sense. So like his heart is too hard to accept the teachings of the Buddha, for instance. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it seems to me that he was actually never ignorant. It seemed to me that he was
ignorant. I guess arrogant. He was very.
He was arrogant. Yes, actually, he was quite arrogant.
So if he's going on this path to try to find enlightenment, and he's trying to understand more, the arrogance is what held him back. It wasn't until he's seen his son that he understand the depth of the actual emotions of humanity.
Well, his son is actually the thing that brings Siddhartha to the river, finally, before he achieves enlightenment, his enlightenment. His son, when Kamala brings him to the hut, is so attached to the city and to his servants and to his life of privilege that he wants nothing to do with anything else. So where Siddhartha was attached to the nomadic lifestyle and the constant hunt of a spiritual home, his son only wants to go back home. And like that give and take there, it's that motif that I was talking about earlier. Like there's a cycle, there's a repetition in these events, and it makes sense when you get to the part of the river, because he talks about, and I actually I want to read this just so I don't like get it wrong. I want to get this kind of accurate. So by the time Siddhartha settles down by the river, he has experienced nearly all the world has to offer, but he is still thirsty. He joins Vasudeva in listening and learning from the river. In doing this, he realizes that reality is one experience, not many, and that time does not exist. Everything is happening everywhere all at once. For example, the river contains opposites and patterns: life and death, joy and suffering, beginning and end, youth and old age. The river does not experience these individually, it experiences them all at once. Quite the yin and yang. Sid himself experiences the same opposites and patterns. His son is attached to his life and riches, where Sid was attached to searching. Vasudeva's wife and Kamala died in the same bed. Sid attaches the same enlightenment as, or achieves the same enlightenment as Gautama, but in his own right. Sid is a childlike person regarding the love of his son. That is, he sought a worldly possession in the love of his son, the same way the childlike people of the material world sought worldly success and validation in their peers. And I got that on the second read through. I was like, this river actually, it's a metaphor
it's very metaphorical, yeah.
Yeah. And like, I just didn't pick up on that the first time around.
No, I think it's a beautiful book. It's beautiful. It's very beautifully written. The depth of it only goes into what you're paying attention to at that time. You can read that book 12 different times, and no matter how many times you read it, you're going to find something different every time. Based on what you're feeling at that time in that book is what you're going to be focusing on. And that moment, it's like, man, that river hit hard. I understand that more.
And so I saw a lot of Stoic themes in this book too. I don't talk about it a lot, but I guess I am like a practicing Stoic. I do my best anyway. And so I saw a lot of these patterns I recognized. One of them was the river, literally. Like Marcus Aurelius said, no man steps in the same river twice. He crossed the river once, and he went to cross it back again, a wiser and more worldly man. In fact, when he went to cross the river the second time, he went to kill himself because he had left a gambling addiction and his wealth with Kamala, because he had a dream that a rare songbird died in her cage, in her room. And then he woke up with like chest pains, and he just ran out from the city and then went to kill himself in the river. And he heard the river laughing at him. And that's when he first started talking to the river. So it's like he's a completely different man stepping into that river the second time around.
You know, if you look at it at a certain perspective of this book, he got humbled pretty hard. He really did.
I mean, brought to the brink of annihilation, yeah.
I mean, he literally looked at a woman as a panting animal in heat.
The nipple.
Like
the first time this motherfucker reads a book, I suggested it to him, by the way. He's sitting in his car and he just looks out of his window and he goes, "Yo, I didn't know there were nipples in here."
They're boobies, bro. I got so excited. Boobies? Udders?
That's fair.
Give me the boobies. The point was, I'm like, man, my man just looked at this woman in her eyes and like, here's a panting animal, and I don't want you. He walked away.
And he walked away. He was a Samana at that point. I think, so the Samanas taught him discipline. That's what I've kind of gathered, at least. Like, overall, they taught him discipline above all. What is the greatest exercise in discipline, except for like, or like beyond rejecting a beautiful woman as a virgin, by the way? Siddhartha didn't lose his virginity in the story until he had met Kamala, however you say her name. I said it both ways a lot in my head when reading it, but until he met her, and she goes, "No, you're too poor. Go meet with Kamaswami. He'll tell you how to be a rich man. When you are a rich man, come back to me and I'll teach you how to kiss." And that was the entire premise. And then he goes off, and guess what? My man became wealthy as fuck, and he did it on his own fucking terms.
Mm-hmm.
But then he stayed in the worldly world too long. He stayed with these busy people, as Seneca would put it, for too long. These people are just so busy chasing this like goal after goal. They're too busy chomping at the bit that like they don't actually ever stop and have like reflection or introspection.
Busy being busy. Busy being busy.
Exactly it.
You know, it may seem as if a man said, turn her down and he gets no bitches. But the reality is, he got bitches.
And dude, like when he was there in the pleasure garden, it says later on in the book that they mentioned orgies and hangovers and stuff. He was partying, dude. He was partying, and guess what? He hated himself. He only ever loved himself once he found something to believe in, something to like truly hang a spiritual hat on.
Wait, you mean if you use vices to find yourself, you're miserable? That's a wild concept.
The drunkard chases the ideas that get him drunk. The academic chases the ideas that make him smarter. You're an expression of ideas. We brought this up in one of our previous episodes, so we'll put that up here in the card. But man, this book, dude. I resonate so deeply with this book because I am also one of the reasons. So I am also, I guess you could say, spiritually homeless. I believe you are too. We have a lot of conversations about this off the camera, and one of the reasons that I had chosen Stoicism as a belief system to work through, to live through, is because it didn't require me to have a sense of divinity. It didn't require me to have a cosmology to fall back on or to answer to. It just says these are the 4 things you need to abide by. Live through them, and you'll be fine.
I like that. Spiritually hungry, homeless, right?
Homeless.
Does that make you smarter? I think it would.
So this, I think it would make you more curious because it would open up more avenues for curiosity. If you're a hard set Christian, a fundamentalist or something, like you just don't have curiosity outside of Christianity, right?
Yeah.
But if you're spiritually homeless, you're agnostic in some way, shape or form, or even like atheist in some way, shape or form, you could develop a healthier curiosity, I think, for other belief systems.
So it's safe to assume Siddhartha here was spiritually homeless.
Yeah, I would say so.
And he was searching. He was looking. He used vices. He used orgies. Good vice. He dabbled. And the end of the book, the one thing that gave him that sense of the depth of love was the son, his kin.
Yeah.
Now, would you say that completed him?
I would say it actually drove him to completion, but I don't think the act of meeting his son completed him. I think it gave him. There's nowhere in that book does it mention him being in love with someone other than his son. He doesn't experience love until he meets his son, at least as far as the text is concerned. So when he finally meets his son, he's introduced to all these other emotions like jealousy, right? Because after his son runs away, and then anger because his son is just not like adhering to his set of beliefs. And so after his son runs away and back to the city, and Siddhartha goes back to the hut to become a ferryman, just ferrying people across the river on a raft, he meets other people, good and bad, priests and saints and thieves and murderers, all who have the love of their sons. But he doesn't have that. And he gets, that hurts him. And that's when I mentioned it actually so hard in my summary because that was a moment that stuck out to me. That was the only worldly pleasure he ever wanted, was the love of his son.
So did he gain wisdom or did he find purpose? Because he was seeking something, but then he got purpose. Being a father is purpose.
Even if I'm not a father, but I imagine even when your son's not in the room, you still think about being a father and what.
Yeah, when you're a dad, you're always a dad.
Like
always
your kid's in the corner of the room watching you, kind of thing. I could see that being an ever present kind of mind fuck after that. But then he goes back and meets with Vasudeva, who just meets him with a silent smile, and they go and listen to the river quietly. And that's when Siddhartha has that moment where he sees 1,000 faces, and he sees 1,000 trees and 1,000 planets and all of the fish and monkeys and livestock that he had inhabited while he was astral projecting, while they were dying and dead. He saw all of these things at one single point in time in the reflection of the river. So that to me rings like that to me, and he wouldn't have gotten to that point if it weren't for losing his son like that. If it weren't for meeting his son even.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I said like that to me, it rings like his son drove him to completion, but didn't complete him.
I think his son humbled him and gave him purpose because he got humbled. He was no longer arrogant. He was no longer chasing for himself. He was chasing for his son.
Actually, that's a fucking really good point. When Govinda comes in to like the second to last chapter, or maybe it was the last chapter, Siddhartha explains to Govinda that the reason Govinda hasn't found enlightenment, and he's frustrated because he's been a monk following the Buddha's teachings for decades at this point, most of his life at this point, and he's still not found enlightenment like Gautama had. And now he sees a Siddhartha that also found it. He was kind of frustrated. He's like, well, how do you find enlightenment? And this is where Siddhartha teaches him the unteachable. He sits down and says, Govinda, kiss my forehead. And Govinda kisses his forehead. And the second he does that, energy is transferred. It doesn't say it that way in the book, but that's how I interpret it. It's like energy is transferred from one to another. Wisdom itself is transferred from one to another. Because from that moment, Govinda steps back and sees only a thin, like what I imagine is like a condoms kind of look of Siddhartha. He's just a pale, translucent, thin layer over all of history, over all of consciousness, all of time. So he sees the same thing in Siddhartha as Siddhartha saw in the river.
I think it's a humble experience.
I don't think he would have been able to, like to your point, I don't think he would have been able to experience that if he weren't, because he had actually, I know what I got a little sidetracked there. I know where I was going with that now. Siddhartha had explained to Govinda that the reason he didn't find enlightenment, I was building up to this, was because he was searching for it. He wasn't finding for it.
I would argue saying he was owed enlightenment. He had a very pretentious, very arrogant way about him. He felt as if he was owed.
Yeah.
He questioned, why wasn't it happening? Why am I not enlightened?
But the reason he was able to tell Govinda, like, you haven't found enlightenment because you're searching for it. You're not open to finding it. Because when you're searching, you're looking at a narrow set of data, right? You're looking at a narrow set of whatever. But if you're finding it, you're open to receiving it. So when Siddhartha lost his son ran away, that humbled him. Now he was open to finding. He wasn't searching because he didn't have any avenues to search through anymore because his son was the last ditch effort, sort of. Like by this point, he was already basically a saint, Siddhartha was. But his son taught him a human love that he didn't know existed. And losing that humbled him, to your point. Like, I think that's a really good fucking insight. What else you got?
I'm a cow. No, I do think that's a beautiful, beautiful metaphor for life. I think if we all narrowly search for answers, you're never going to find them. All the answers you want are out there, but you have to be open to receive different insights, different inputs. You can't just sit there and be narrow into one way. You have got to accept all different avenues of knowledge.
A good, maybe like analog for this might be if you're a person who just says, oh, I just have bad luck all the time. Bad things happen to me all the time. I would actually argue, and I'm welcome to be wrong about this, but I don't think I am, that all things good and bad are happening around you at all times. But your perception only picks up on bad things or only on good things. So the person holding the door open is happening just the same as the person behind them closed the door on you. But because the person holding the door open and you got to walk through it without having to open the door yourself, You just like blow past that because it's not on your radar to look for things like that. It's on your radar to look for other things like, oh, fuck, that person just slammed the door in my face.
To the book point,
yeah,
if you are looking at life that way, that's arrogant. To think you are that important in this world to experience, I'm only having bad luck, only bad things happen to me, trust me, the universe don't care enough about you.
No.
It's how you perceive things. It's how you accept things. If you go around looking for bad, you're going to find bad. You need to have the mindset of, you know what? It's going to happen regardless. It's not about me. It's about what's in front of me. And embrace what's in front of you. Be enlightened by it. Learn from it. Humble yourself to understand. It's going to suck regardless. Learn to navigate.
Yeah, no, you absolutely got to toughen your skin. Especially if you're...
And don't walk away from a woman panting. Like,
yeah, especially like if you're in the middle of the woods and she's just like getting a drink of water.
And you know, you're a virgin or whatnot.
And you got dust in your hair and you're starving because you're a Samana.
And she's still trying? Like, I mean, come on, dude.
Honestly, what does that say about the quality of men around him, though? If he's the pick. Govinda must have been a dog, dude.
Oof.
Just rough, you know? You know, the thing is, like, Siddhartha could cast spells by the end of his time at the Samana. So, I bet, dude, Dude, I bet them orgies were off the fucking chain, dude.
Magical.
He's just in there just casting orgasms to everyone. You get an orgasm. You get an orgasm. You get an orgasm.
Yeah,
everybody gets it. Reach under your chair. Aha.
Sticky.
Yeah. Why is there a hole in my chair?
Again. Thanks, Grandpa. He got bitches.
Dude, there's no way he didn't. It was funny, like, Kamaswamy would get mad at him because he wasn't taking it seriously enough, but he was still making bank. Actually, one of the most stoic things in this book, one of those stoic events that he perpetrated, whatever, is he went to make a sale. Failed to make the sale, but instead of instead of shipping himself back immediately, he just stayed and hung out in town for 4 days. He's like, well, I'm already here. I might as well see what you guys are about. That is the most, like, go with the flow, like, amor fati bullshit I've ever heard. It's just like, oh, you mean I don't actually get to make $500,000 or whatever the fuck on this? I guess I'm just going to spend a couple thousand hanging out with y'all then.
I have a question for you. How you personally interpret something. Do you think that was all necessary for him to reach enlightenment? Or do you think if he released his arrogance, it would have happened sooner for him?
The second one for sure. Yeah, so arrogance is just an inflated ego, right? And there's just a clean cut definition, just like inflated ego. And ego will prevent you from seeing everything. Ego will prevent you from being conscious. It'll prevent you from being smart. It'll prevent you from being, but it'll also get you a lot of places too. I think it's just having a healthy, checked, even maybe depending on who you are, minimized ego. I unfortunately have a large ego and I'm very aware of it. So I do a lot to keep it in check. You and I talk about this a lot, actually. You know, I do a lot to make sure that I am, in fact, remaining humble. And he was not doing any of that. But if he had, like, I'm not saying that I'm a Brahmin, but I'd be open to it.
How do you measure humility? You just claim to be egotistical. How do you measure humility then?
Could be awareness. Could be the act of being aware. Siddhartha didn't express humility until
he lost
Vasudeva. Yeah. Until he lost his kid.
I think everybody needs to fall down their face.
Yeah. 1,000%. Everyone needs to be punched in the fucking face. You always know a motherfucker's not been punched in the face. You know that energy. You might be that energy.
Don't be that energy.
Don't be that energy.
Don't be that guy.
Come here. We'll punch you in the face.
I'll kiss you. Either way.
Yeah, I mean, it's not gonna be hard. You just need to know like what like that feels like, you know.
Make yourself be pretty.
I've had my teeth broken out before, dude. We're fine.
You're better than this.
Now I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that motherfucker gets punched in the face. That guy's a dick. Everybody needs to get humble.
Seriously.
You can't sit there and walk around like you fucking shit don't stink.
I don't even mean a metaphorical punch. I mean everyone literally needs to be punched in the face by someone that is trying to punch them in the face at some point in their adolescence, preferably.
Systemanic Fight Club?
We don't. Bro, you're already breaking the fucking rules.
I'm not invited to Fight Club.
Not anymore, you're not. That was a second offense.
Am I gonna get branded again?
Yeah, left nut this time.
Fuck.
Oh, that's a good one. That's actually the one that makes boys. The right one makes girls because they're always right.
I'm gonna chat GPT this. Make sure I don't believe you. I don't listen to robots nowadays.
Yeah, why don't we ask Perplexity? They're a sponsor of ours. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, sponsor.
Oh, I said that as I'm adjusting the sensitivity of my mic. My bad, guys. No, we're good.
Where's the sponsor?
It definitely spiked there, though. Are we still talking about the book?
We got a sponsor?
It was a Joe Rogan joke. Fed Slop USA.
I think if you're interested in philosophy and you want a different perspective on how to navigate your own life and your own thoughts, this is a phenomenal book to read. I think if you're looking to achieve...
Hold on.
On hold.
I don't see anything coming out of your mic.
Was that the whole time or just now?
I don't know. I just noticed it right now. Try it out again.
How about now?